All right, guys, good morning. Welcome back. Thursday morning, day 30, furlough day 30 in the D.C. area, and Fed rate cut +1, right? Although we're not really seeing that in the markets this morning. And this is why I've always said, hopefully you guys are following on Substack. That's where I'll do a lot more of the crypto analysis on Substack now, not as much on YouTube. But I try and kind of do some videos over here on YouTube, and then as well as Substack and funneled over there, but that's where most of the coverage is. I'll put a lot of that description and links for Substack in the description of these videos, but you can find me on Substack, and it's a free subscription to the newsletter, and a lot more in detail daily, a lot more daily analysis there. But we're looking at the chart here for Bitcoin this morning. Obviously, the Fed rate cut 25 basis points yesterday, pretty anticipated, probably baked in a lot of what we saw bounce back off the $105,000 level. But here's the problem. Here's what I've always talked about with everybody is we trade behavior, not price. Okay. So we're not trading price. It doesn't matter what the price of Bitcoin is today. We're trading the behavior, and the behavior today is down. Okay. The sentiment is down. Okay. Fear has set in again. And the reason why is because, again, we keep having this battle between Trump and Powell. Okay. Trump's out in the Far East. He's doing trade deals with China, with Xi, getting stuff kind of solidified, which pretty much shook the market weeks back on October 10th with the, fear-mongering over 100% tariffs on China, things like that got released over the weekend. And boom, we saw that happen. Everyone got freaking closed out. $19 billion in liquidations. We had $800 million worth of liquidations in the last 24 hours, guys. 600 million of it were people long Bitcoin that got wrecked. And then 200 million of it were people that were short Bitcoin. Okay. So that tells you a little bit of going into that. We had a little pump into the meeting in the morning. And once they had the meeting in the afternoon, and then we had a massive sell-off. Why did we have that sell-off? We had that sell-off because of Powell's comments after the 25 basis point cut. So all the excitement about rallying basically got fudded by Powell intentionally. And this is what Powell does. Okay. Because him and Trump are always at odds, don't like each other, and he clearly knows Trump and the Trump family are heavily invested in things like crypto and the market, and honestly, I don't think he cares. I think he doesn't have to make these comments. He doesn't have to make these forward-looking about December. December's forever away in terms of the market, all right? So he doesn't have to make those comments about, well, it's not a given that we're going to cut rates again in December. He doesn't have to make those comments, but he does repeatedly, and he does it to FUD the market. That's the only reason why he does it. He doesn't have to do it. I don't know why he does it, other than, in my opinion, it's this whole tension between him and Trump. So you got to trade that behavior. Okay, right now you've got short entries, which are sell downs. Right now, from 115,800 in Bitcoin, at the time of when Powell was speaking, 570 in Bitcoin Cash, for example, $2.66 in XRP. Those are just a few of some of the trades that I know got people in the community are making. Big shout out to everybody with all the wins over the last 2 weeks. It's been pretty epic for a lot of people to the community. That have just joined on. Really, some people here in the DC area in the furlough that have been furloughed, they're just now getting into crypto. It's been really exciting, to see everybody get interested in learning this stuff and how you can do it simply small without all that noise that's out there, man. On a lot of this stuff, it's like overwhelming noise. You can use the 5-bit exchange here. I'll put up a little link right here. On the channel here for the 5-bit exchange. You can start with 5 USDT. Okay, you can move it over from your, you need to buy your Bitcoin long, buy it on Coinbase or whatever, and you can move it over into the 5-bit exchange, and then you can start trading. And that's what people are doing. A lot more working class people, working class families are seeing the curtain be peeled back in terms of what's really happening here in the financial. The banks are making an exorbitant amount of money off of working class families in America over the last few years. They are. Watch the earnings. Watch how Bloomberg, the evil empire, and people like that focus more on technology, right? You're over here looking at the Mag 7, which control over 40% of the S&P 500, okay? And they're all doing great. They're all up. They had earnings yesterday. You know, they're crushing it. NVIDIA's crushing it. You know, is it Google, I think, that's, I think it's Google. Or it might be Meta. Meta's borrowing a $25 billion bond offering, okay? They got plenty in cash, but they're going to go to the bond market and get $25 billion to stick in their coffers. So all that stuff. So look over here. Mag 7's doing great. They're not really covering what's happening with the banks. The banks are making a killing off of its customers. Like, some of these are crazy, okay? And it's all based on how they are, in my opinion, manipulating these financial markets, okay? You haven't really heard about much M&A. It's merger and acquisitions. You haven't really heard about much happening really in the last year because of the uncertainty of the trade and the tariffs and all that stuff. And yet these banks are still raking in. How are they raking it in? They're raking in through ETFs. They're raking in through crypto. Okay, and I want everyone to understand that as we're looking at Bitcoin and what's happening with the net inflows into spot ETF Bitcoins, okay? They have been all over the place. Way down 4 consecutive days, down. Then we get a spike. And so I always publish that up, try to publish that daily on the Substack. So if you're interested in that, because that's what you want to trade, you want to trade that. If more money's coming into those ETFs, they have to employ that money. So they have to buy Bitcoin, buy Ethereum, buy XRP, buy Solana, buy, Cardano to put in their little ETF, okay? If it's an ETF treasury, then it's just Bitcoin or it's just Ethereum. Solana just launched. I don't know what happened with Solana, but Solana dumped to 190 and then now went back up to 200. And now this morning, let's take a look at Solana, one of the strategic reserve, back down to 187. So it's now dumped back down below where it was, okay? And so that was an awesome opportunity for people to take some leverage trades on the sell down like we are right now because we got to find critical support again. We've been through this rodeo, guys, okay? We've been through this rodeo. Let's talk about the rodeo and where we're at. We know what happened on October 10th. We got as low as 103,316. Then we dumped back down again on the 17th, a week later, to 103,000 level again. Then we went all the way back up to 113. Then we fell all the way back down to 107. Then we went from 107 all the way back to 115 just within the last 2 days. Okay. Got as high as 116 during the FOMC. Okay. Heading into the FOMC meeting. And then here we are. Back down to testing the $108,000 level right now, as you can see right there on the screen. That's what's happened, okay? We're still in the same zone that we've been in since the post-October 10th $19 billion liquidation. People got shook out, okay? Then more money came back in. Whales were buying dips. Whales were buying dips in Ethereum. Whales were buying dips in Solana. Whales were buying dips in Bitcoin. Now, what's interesting is whales are starting to sell in XRP, okay? XRP couldn't break that critical level, and it's now sold way down. We're in the short trade for the community is $2.66. You follow that on Substack, $2.66. It's currently trading at, I want to say 249-ish. Let's take a look at XRP. 249.55. XRP is down 6%. I want you to think about this. In less than 24 hours, that trade at 10x is plus 63.91%. Okay? At 25x, like I know some of the guys, shout out CryptoCat, I know some of those guys are trading at 25x. That's 159% in 24 hours because they bought. Okay? When the sentiment shifted, when Powell made those comments, okay, everything changed, right? Everything was great. The rate cut came. Trump was meeting with Xi. Everything seemed to be good. But then Powell made those comments about December, and the market freaking tanked because the market is all about emotion. Remember, 60%, 70% of this market, nobody's even talking about. Their earnings are flat. They're not doing well in the economy. They're all focused on the Mag 7, okay? All those companies in the Mag 7, all right, that are driving your 401k, okay? And when that bubble bursts, this market is going to be in major trouble because there's none of the other segments other than the financial markets and banks and investment and lending institutions. Retail's not doing well. Food stocks aren't doing well. Look, no one's talking about, I mean, it is really a precarious situation of a potential bubble. Now, there are arguments that say it's going to a continuation pattern higher because of AI and because of everything that's happening. This will continue to go. But we all have to remember that we did have a dot-com bubble. We did have a financial 201. We did have a financial meltdown in 2008 because of the housing. So we've been here before. It's just a matter. It's not if, it's when that bubble's going to burst. Okay, when are the deliverables for AI actually going to be realized? Are they going to be realized before the market decides that all the macro global indicators are, okay, we're overbought? Okay, remember, gold is going down now after getting up there. Okay, 4,000. Gold is starting to fall. Okay, so we got to understand kind of what's going on here. All right. Remember that relationship between Bitcoin and gold? Which one really is a bigger store of value? We're going to find out. And we find this out in bear markets. We don't find this out in bull markets. Okay. We're going to find out. I mean, you guys have to understand from a larger perspective. We do the 5-day trading cycle. So we look at these trades and where they're going to be in 5 days, not 30, not a month, not 60. Don't care about Fibonacci. Don't care about that stuff out because we're trading this week's behavior for 5 days on 5-bit. Okay. You can hit that 5-bit trading exchange, go right to it, that QR code, and you can see what I'm talking about. Okay. We trade 5 days because in 5 days, that trade is liquidated if we don't make any moves. So we're allowed to keep our trades open for 5 days. We're allowed to have trades open, buy up and sell down at the same time. We call that a straddle. Okay. There are a number of ways that you can play that, but we're only looking at 5 days. And when you only are looking at that, as a leverage trader, even at 5x, even at 10x low leverage, you have a little bit more of like understanding as to what's happening, right? Like we saw all the enthusiasm going in, but there's always that behavioral wild card when someone like a Trump over the weekend makes comments. Someone like a Trump makes a comment about nuclear testing, okay, to keep up with China and Russia, okay? There's always that because that's how you know how tenuous the market really is it hangs on a whisper. Okay, that's what makes it so risky. All right. And so you got to really be able to have your limit orders. You got to really be able to set that up to like, okay, and you got to have that plan. Use the calculator that's available to you where you can put in your entry and what your desired exit is and what that P&L return is going to be and stick to it. If you want to generate 8%, 10%, on your P&L, on your return, on your trade, use the calculator and find out and then get out. Because you don't know when someone's going to make one of those comments, right? You're not hodling here on this exchange. You're trading on this exchange, okay? And then you want to move your profits off the exchange to your cold wallet or your other, move them to Coinbase, Kraken, wherever you're going to move them to, in the interim. But again, what you're working with on the 5-bit exchange is you're trading this, okay? And you're going to move the profits, your profits over, okay? And so that's what the fundamental like driver is how can you use the exchange and how can you use leverage and what leverage is borrowing the exchange money to leverage your trade at 10x your actual capital investment and then taking that profit and moving that profit off and then accumulating Ethereum or Bitcoin. I prefer Ethereum. Not financial advice, but just my opinion. Not your financial advisor, obviously. Okay? I prefer Ethereum because I think the rate of return is going to be higher. Okay? Expect Bitcoin to continue to go higher, but Bitcoin's also priced at over $100,000. Ethereum's priced at below $4,000. Okay? Ethereum today is trading below $3,800. Okay? So when you look at that and you think about these things, that's where you want to be at. Okay. So let's take a look at this. Just today, I just want to briefly keep this short and just talk about correlation. Because I get this question a lot from people about Bitcoin's so expensive. Well, if you want to play a correlated asset to Bitcoin that's not nearly as expensive, then play its fork. Okay. It's not a strategic reserve crypto, but you can still play the movement of Bitcoin in Bitcoin Cash, BC8. Okay. And what do I mean by that? Meaning what's the relationship between the movements we just saw? 1021, 1024, 1027, and 1030. Those were all 5-day. Those were all entries with a 5-day window that were traded and exited, okay? Except for the 1030 trade, which is still open and will remain open until early next week because you get 5 days. So that trade was entered in yesterday, okay? And so you'll get Friday, okay? So you got Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So we'll have to exit that trade by Monday, or the exchange automatically just exits it to wherever it's at, what the state of it's at, okay? But if you go back and you look, on 1021, entering Bitcoin at 108,500, buy up, and exiting at 112,000 level at 10x return 30x87. The same exact trade in Bitcoin on 1021, Bitcoin Cash, 470 to 512 delivered 89.36. Okay. So the same trade at the same time. Okay. And you can go and look at that. We're talking about right there in the middle where you see that big green, candle. Okay. That's 1020. All right. So on that day, if you'd entered Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash at the same time, the same trade, the same leverage, same direction, buy up, look at the return difference. Okay. Again, Bitcoin Cash is $470. Okay. You're getting the price movement from 470 to 512, which is greater than the price movement from 108,000 to 112,000 for Bitcoin on a percentage basis, right? So you want to use that. That's a strategy, okay? Even though Bitcoin Cash is not a strategic reserve 5 for us, you can still take the correlated ETC, okay? Or Ethereum, correlated assets, okay? That move in the same direction as each other, okay? And so that is a viable strategy to use, okay? Now, that was one example. On 1024, Bitcoin, 107,200, buy up 10% or 10x, went to 111,000, exit 35.45%. Great freaking return on a 10x leverage trade, right? In less than a day and a half. 1024, Bitcoin Cash, 480 entry, 10x, exit at 5.8, 58.33%. Okay. So again, just to see this, you can do the same thing on 1027, 508 to 558. Bitcoin Cash returned 98%. 111 to 115, 200. Bitcoin returned 37.84%. So you're looking at differences of 30 or 40%, but you're playing the same trade in essence. You're playing the same movement of behavior, because as Bitcoin goes up, Bitcoin Cash is going to go up. Okay. And so my opinion, Bitcoin Cash is more highly correlated to Bitcoin than Ethereum is. Okay. Ethereum used to be pretty correlated with Bitcoin, much higher than it is today. Okay. So you want to consider that. And then XRP is its own thing. XRP failed to break out, guys. Okay. It failed. All right. Let me see if I can pull. I don't know if I can pull that up. All right. Yeah, XRP failed to break out. And what happened? The whales started dumping her. Okay. Started dumping her. All right. And so that's when you noticed, that's when you want to go in your buy down, your sell down. Okay. And even at that leverage, even at 10x leverage, you're going to deliver it. So 10x currently, Ethereum trading at 249. The sell down was entered yesterday at 266. That's currently at 63%. Okay, because it rejected 268. Okay, again, support and resistance levels within the zone. All right, and you're probably going to see a deeper pullback. We might see if we don't get back above 250, we could certainly see because 258 was a support level and it broke that. It broke through the support level and overnight. Okay, so we're already below that support level, and so now it's all you got to look at, like the 200-day EMA. Was 261. All right, and then the support level was actually 258, and we're already below that for XRP. Okay, so that's a large blocks of XRP are being sold. Okay, 2.18 million token volume. Whale outflows continue. Open interest is dropping in XRP. So if you're an XRP guy, this is a buying opportunity, long to hodl, in terms of it, as it continues to shake. The whales continue to sell and depress XRP. We're going to find out. Let's take a look at that. You can find out where we're looking at XRP for those of you who want to add some XRP into your portfolio long, that maybe you missed this trade. All right. Oh, come on. Sorry, guys. We got these storms rolling in. Hurricane Melissa forcing that cold front over us. So we got some delays here with. There we go. 246. Okay, she's falling away, guys. Okay, that's just what's happening now. Okay, and she does not. XRP does not have any support until 236. Okay, 236. All right. She's trading at 31 right now at a 30. We're right at our area. I'm actually probably gonna put some XRP, get some XRP today myself. Not financial advice for you. I'm not your financial advisor, as I always make sure that you understand. And because we're gonna fall here below a 30 RSI on the 4 hour, and I like to accumulate long below 30. I don't ever buy Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, Cardano, or Solana when the 4 hour is over 30 RSI. Okay. I always look for value. The last time it fell below 30 RSI, it fell all the way down to 21 RSI. That was on the 12th of October. That was right after that, all the liquidations on October 10th. Okay. Awesome buying opportunity. So buying there at that level, XRP was 232. So it ran all the way to I think right before the meeting, it was at 268, I think. So it ran up 30 some cents, 35 cents. Okay. So I'm watching that today. So if it falls below 30, I'm going to go ahead and nibble on some XRP, and it likely will, because it does not have any support here until about 238. It was at 238 on the 23rd. Okay. And then 236 right before that on the 22nd. So, all right. So what's that trade look like? Okay. Well, very simple. You go to the calculator. You've got your buy price at 266, 238, 10x leverage on your calculator. That's going to return over 100%. Okay. I mean, if it gets that low right now, we're at 246 on 10x leverage. It's at 75%. So there's people out there, they're in the Substack group that are looking at this. They're already out of the trade. Okay. I've just gotten 2 text messages during the stream. Okay. So they're already exiting the trade in profit. It's great. Doesn't matter. Okay. Just don't look back. When a trade ends, a trade ends. Okay, they got out probably 249, 248 because that 250 level, okay, did have some support, okay, and they got out with a nice return, okay. So don't worry about looking at trades that have already exited. Then you work for the next trade. So we'll see what happens. But my opinion, again, not financial advice, is let it run. Like let this is two consecutive 4 hour. We're in the second one, okay? 1 4 hour negative red negative candle, okay? Down. We're into the second one, and she's still going down, okay? Okay, and so I'm gonna let it run. Let it run. Okay? And then but be smart about it. Okay. Remember, you've got 4 more days. You can let this run through the weekend. Wait for any more news to break on Friday. Okay, like that's how you want to look at it. I know a lot of you guys are really interested, like I am, in Ethereum. Ethereum's kind of in some trouble, okay, technically speaking. And when it's down 5.5% today. It's down to 3,777. And again, we just cracked 30. Okay. So we're at 20 on the 4 hour. We are now at 28.45. Okay. What did I just say about the RSI being below 30? That's when you want to nibble. That's when you want to send $25, $10, $25, whatever's in your, in your mode, in that, okay, in your ammunition, buy some Ethereum. Okay. Buy it when everybody else is selling it, okay, for your hodl, all right? If you're not in the trade, the sell down trade, okay, and the sell down trade for Ethereum was at 3,900, okay? It for 3 times, Ethereum has failed to break and hold 4,000 for 3 times, okay? You look here on your 5-bit right there, it's got Bitcoin right now at 107,674, okay? So that sell down from 115, that's up another 5%. Okay, so it's at 70% now. Okay, and so that's how you want to run it. Again, hit that 5-bit trading exchange, trading community QR code, and you can go right to the 5-bit exchange. You can see what I'm talking about. Ethereum is at 3780. Again, Ethereum has support right at 3740. Okay. If we break that level, around 3740, we don't really have. Think about this. On 10/10, the day of the 19 billion and liquidations, Ethereum fell to 3780. Okay, and then dropped. It was at 3780 when that news broke. Okay, and it dropped all the way to the 3,400 gen. Now, it rebounded pretty quickly. Okay, back up to like 3,700. So we're right back to where we were, roughly around 1011, 1012. And if it breaks that level, guys, let's switch over to the daily for Ethereum. If it breaks that level, we're looking at 3,300, the 3,300 level. If you can't hold that level today at 3,700, we're going to fall back down to the 3,300 level. So that's where you want to look at today. If you're not in any trades at the moment and you're looking at the weekend coming up after tomorrow, or you're going to enter the market tomorrow, you want to make sure that Ethereum has held. If she's not going to hold that 37, she's going to fall to 3,400. Okay, and so that would be a sell down trade entry. If you're, but you want to give today. Let's see what happens today. Obviously, again, on the daily, Ethereum has been down now 3 days in a row. Okay, on the 4 hour, still 2. We're in the second red candle. Okay, And so that's how you want to do it. That's how you want to play these trades and guys, these correlated things. Remember, you've got opportunities there to set these trades up for 5 days. A lot of stuff coming into the market now with liquidations, obviously. There's a lot of optimism, expected optimism over the trade talks with Xi and Trump that have just now been fudded, man. They've been fudded by Powell, by his comments, because he basically took the market down. And those trade talks, no matter how positive, haven't been able to really prop up the markets. Right? We had 4 days. We had 4 consecutive days of positive Bitcoin spot ETF data. I publish these every day on Substack. Okay. On October 23rd, we had 20 billion. 24th, we had 90 billion. 27th, we had the weekend. The 27th, Monday, we had 149 billion. Tuesday, we had 202 billion. And then what happened yesterday? 470 billion down. Okay, outflows. Okay, in the red. Most of that happened after 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time yesterday because news leaked what the sentiment was. And then obviously we had the FOMC meeting. So I publish that every day as much as I can on Substack, okay? And do a trade of the day, kind of like just a trade to take a look at for pretty much each day based on the behavior of the market, what's happened. A lot of times it's the same trade because we're in a 5-day trade, okay? So just keep that in mind. It's to help you kind of like begin to formulate a little bit of a baseline of the 5-day cycle and why you trade it and how you can trade it at lower leverage and basically begin to grow your crypto, okay, portfolio by taking the profit from the leverage trade and then accumulating, like today, accumulating XRP and accumulating Ethereum. Now, Bitcoin I don't believe Bitcoin is there yet. Okay, Bitcoin is still above that RSI level. Okay, so, people need to decide to determine whether or not today say it's a good day or not to add funds long in Bitcoin or not. For me, I don't even consider it until it falls below 30. Because if you have a long-term vision for that 10% or 5% of your overall financial portfolio, you're looking long-term. You're not looking the next week or tomorrow. That's what this is about. That's what 5-bit and leverage trading is about. Hodling is about longer term. So you don't need to chase Bitcoin on a FOMO day. Okay. You need to accumulate Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, Solana, to a lesser extent Cardano, until some things change with that. On days or periods where everybody else is selling. Okay. And don't buy into the ultimate negative FUD, because we've seen it bounce back time and time again. Sometimes it takes a month. Sometimes it takes a week. Sometimes it takes 2 days. We just saw that 2 weeks ago. Okay. So you just want to keep that in mind. All right. That's where we're at today, Thursday. +1 from the FOMC meeting rate cut, 25 basis points, and day 30 of the furlough of federal employees in DC. Hope everybody has a great day. Feel free to message me, message me in the on Substack. If you have any questions, and just reach out to me, and I will get you started and put you in the right direction. All right, guys.